Hello, everyone, again. This is Wes Stabel. I am the elder of the Decatur, Arkansas Seventh-day Adventist Church. I have been bringing a number of sessions, 3 up until now, on what must I do in order for me to be prepared for the final events and ultimately for Jesus' coming. The key points so far that we have looked at is number one, we must know our lost spiritual condition. Number two, we must know that we must be born again in order to live in heaven with all of the inhabitants there. And number three, we covered last time from the book Steps to Christ, the chapter on consecration, surrendering all. Tonight, we will get into another topic which involves our, our 5 senses, our eyes, ears, smell, all of it. We must guard these if we are going to prepare for the final events. Oh, why do they delay? Why are they not seized by a terrible fear that it would be too late, too late? No oil in their vessels with their lamps. The end is near. We are on the very borders of the eternal world. And oh, how tardy, how dilatory to secure the oil of grace, to replenish the lamps that are going out. God help the sinners in Zion. Today, as in the past, all heaven is watching to see the church develop in the true science of salvation. All heaven is watching to see how we are fighting the battle against temptation. All heaven is watching with intense interest for every indication of the characters they are forming. Whether when brought to the test, they will stand firmly for God and the right, or be swayed by worldly influences. Heaven seems to be more concerned than we are. All heaven is watching with interest to see what use we are making of God's entrusted talents. All heaven is watching and is ready to help you. All heaven is watching to see how we are fighting the battle against temptation. In the day of final judgment, every lost soul will understand the nature of his own rejection of truth. The cross will be presented and its real bearing will be seen by every mind that has been blinded by transgression. We're talking about here the experience when the New Jerusalem comes down and the saints are on the wall and the wicked are on the outside with their leader, Satan, and are ready to attack the city, when suddenly above the city is seen a vision of everything that transpired in the history of this world. And it says here, continuing, before the vision of Calvary, with its mysterious victim, sinners will stand condemned. Every lying excuse will be swept away. Human apostasy will appear in its heinous character. Men will see what their choice has been. The plagues are falling upon the inhabitants of the earth. Some were denouncing God and cursing him. Others rushed to the people of God and begged to be taught how they should escape the judgments of God. But the saints had nothing for them. The last tear for sinners had been shed, and the last agonizing prayer offered The last burden had been borne. So sad. I wanted to show you because I hear some people think that, oh no, the world isn't changing. It's just like it used to be. It's just that they have more reporting now than what they used to have. Look at this chart. This is the time between disasters. So on the left column, the vertical column, that's the number of days that there were between $1 billion disasters. And you can see some of the months it was over 100 days, or some parts of the year it was over 100 days. 1990s, pretty much the same, a little bit more. And then you get to the year 2000, and now do you see how this has gone from the 60s to the 40s to the 20s and to where we are today? And I don't even have the year 2025 on there, but that shows it's about 7 days between $1 billion disasters when it used to be 100 not too long back. Events have to move my picture. It kind of gets in my way here. Events upon which the attention of all heaven is centered are undiscerned. Their very occurrence is unnoticed by religious leaders and worshipers in the house of God. This is a picture of the River Valley. It was a very beautiful place. This is where the Israelites were camped just before they went across to the promised land. And here's another picture looking up through the valley. You see wonderful um, gardening and trees, and they have citrus there. It's a tropical climate. It's beautiful there. That's where they were camped. And in Numbers, it describes a little bit here when Moses was telling them and said, speak to the children of Israel and say unto them, when ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then ye shall drive out the inhabitants of the land before you and destroy all their molten images and quite pluck down all their high places. Ellen White says about this, that country so rich in natural advantages had been defiled by the inhabitants. In the public worship of Baal, the leading deity, the most degrading and iniquitous scenes were constantly enacted. On every side were places noted for idolatry and licentiousness, the very names being suggestive of the vileness and corruption of the people. These surroundings exerted a polluting influence upon the Israelites. Their minds became familiar with the vile thoughts constantly suggested. Their life of ease and inaction produced its demoralizing effect, and almost, notice this, unconsciously to themselves, they were departing from God and coming into a condition where they would fall an easy prey to temptation. And you can recall what happened immediately after this when the Moabite women came into the camp and Israel sinned greatly, and thousands of them perished because of their sin, all because of viewing things with their eyes that were breaking down their conscience so that they no longer saw things as sinful as they used to be. The mind does not come down at once from purity and holiness to depravity, corruption, and crime. It takes time to degrade those formed in the image of God through the brutal or the satanic. By beholding, we become changed. There's where that familiar passage is. Many people think it's in the scripture, but really it's an Ellen White quote. By beholding, we do become changed. It's unconscious to us, even. By the indulgence of impure thoughts, man can so educate his mind that sin which he once loathed will actually become pleasant to him. I want to take you through some thoughts from the book Adventist Home. Why God gave us eyes, ears, and speech. God gave men eyes that they might behold wondrous things out of his law. He gave them the hearing ear that they might listen to his message, spoken by the living preacher. He gave men the talent of speech that they might present Christ as the sin pardoning Savior. My brethren, God calls upon you as his followers to walk in the light. You need to be alarmed. Sin is among us, and it is not seen to be exceedingly sinful. The senses of many are benumbed by the indulgence of appetite and by familiarity with sin. We need to advance nearer heaven. Satan does not wish the people to have a knowledge of God, and if he can set in operation, notice what it says, games and theatrical performances that will so confuse the senses of the young that human beings will perish in darkness. While light shines all about them, he is well pleased. Many of these things seem quite innocent. The theatrical performances today, we call them movies. So many people, including God's people, are so into watching theatrical performances. And I personally was deeply involved in games, sporting events, and such as that. These things are not for our good. They actually will take us down. In no case can Satan obtain dominion over the thoughts, words, and actions unless we voluntarily open the door and invite him to enter. He will then come in and by catching away the good seed sown in the heart, make of none effect the truth. All who name the name of Christ need to watch and pray and guard the avenues of the soul. For Satan is at work to corrupt and destroy. If the least advantage is given him, it's not safe for us to linger to contemplate the advantages to be reaped through yielding to Satan's suggestions. These things are very critical, and today, with our cell phones, with all of the things that people look at there and on the computer, Satan has a great advantage over God's people. If we venture on Satan's ground, we have no assurance of protection from his power. So far as in us lies, we should close every avenue by which the tempter may find access to it. Dear ones, I'm even cutting off my news watching. There's always mixed in with everything. And do I really need to know all of the news? I can't do anything about it. It never has helped me in life, but I always wanted to know what was going on. Who can know in the moment of temptation the terrible consequences which will result from one wrong, hasty step? Our only safety is to be shielded by the grace of God every moment and not put out our own spiritual eyesight so that we will call evil good and good evil. Without hesitation or argument, We must close and guard the avenues of the soul against evil. That is not easy to do today. It's all around us in the stores and everywhere. Every Christian must stand on guard daily, watching every avenue of the soul where Satan might find access. He must pray for divine help and at the same time resolutely resist every inclination to sin. By courage, by faith, by persevering toil, he can conquer. But let him remember that to gain the victory, Christ must abide in him and he in Christ. We're going to talk about that in the next session. Those who would not fall a prey to Satan's devices must guard well the avenues of the soul. Notice they must avoid reading, seeing, or hearing that which will suggest impure thoughts. The mind must not be left to dwell at random upon every subject that the enemy of souls may suggest. The heart must be faithfully sentineled, or evils without will awaken evils within, and the soul will wander in darkness. Everything that can be done should be done to place ourselves and our children where we shall not see the iniquity that is practiced in the world. We should carefully guard the sight of our eyes, the hearing of our ears, so that these awful things shall not enter our minds. Those who would have that wisdom, which is from God, must become fools in the sinful knowledge of this age in order to be wise. They should shut their eyes that they may see and learn no evil. They should close their ears lest they hear that which is evil and obtain that knowledge which would stain their purity of thoughts and acts. How often I have heard people say, "Oh, those things don't bother me. I know they exist, but they don't affect me." They are literally foolish. They do affect every person. What I am sharing here is wisdom from God, and they should guard their tongues lest they utter corrupt communications and guile be found in their mouths. Now, I want to take you to a little diagram that I did some time back. Had a lady draw these things up for me, and I really appreciated it. I'm representing the mind as this little walled area here. And as we are born, the heart, the soul temple, really doesn't have what we wish that it did. We have our will, that's in our mind somehow. I don't know how it works. And that's one thing that God says I will not touch. It's our will to do what we do. The heart, which is the soul temple, is desperately wicked, Jeremiah says. Not one thought or impulse of a spiritual nature is what Ellen White says. That's going to produce a garden of fruit, and it's going to be bad character. That will be the fruit from the heart's garden with that kind of spiritual nature. The conscience stands guard out here. This should be a faithful sentinel there to guard what comes into the mind, but the conscience is defiled. God's law is not desired. We make our own standards. God's standards are broken down. And what about the enemy? He is free to come in. I hope you're getting the picture of what I've drawn up here. Now let's go back and look at the mind, which is the capital of the body, when we are born again. When we're born again, our will is to do God's will. God gives us a new heart. He lives in us, and good character will be the fruit from the heart's garden. God's law will be a wall of protection about us. The standards will be God's, and the broken down standards will be repaired. Our conscience, the spiritual eye, will be a faithful sentinel. And then what about Satan? He cannot come in with God's help. He cannot come in. All should guard the senses, lest Satan gain victory over them. For these are the avenues of the soul. You will have to become a faithful sentinel over your eyes, ears, and all your senses. If you would control your mind and prevent vain and corrupt thoughts from staining your soul, the power of grace alone can accomplish this most desirable work. Satan and his angels are busy creating a paralyzed condition of the senses, so that cautions, warnings, and reproofs shall not be heard, or if heard, that they shall not take effect upon the heart and reform the life. It is a law, both of intellectual and the spiritual nature, that by beholding, we become changed. The mind gradually adapts itself to the subjects upon which it is allowed to dwell. It becomes assimilated to that which it is accustomed to love and reverence. Man will never rise higher than his standard of purity or goodness or truth. So by beholding, we become changed. Here's another paragraph about it. The more you contemplate the character of Christ, the more you will become conformed to his image. Come to Jesus just as you are, and he will receive you and put a new song in your mouth, even praise to God. It would be well for us to spend a thoughtful hour each day in contemplation of the life of Christ. I am attempting to do this. Haven't quite got it to the thoughtful hour yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm using the book, The Desire of Ages. And notice it said we should take it point by point and let the imagination grasp each scene, especially the closing ones. So go to that final week that Jesus was on earth and read those things, read them again and again. As we thus dwell upon his great sacrifice for us, our confidence in him will be more constant. Our love will be quickened, and we shall be more deeply imbued with his spirit. If we would be saved at last, we must learn the lesson of penitence and humiliation at the foot of the cross. Moral purity, self-respect, a strong power of resistance must be firmly and constantly cherished. There should not be one departure from reserve, one act of familiarity, one indiscretion may jeopardize the soul in opening the door to temptation, and the power of resistance becomes weakened. That's exactly what happened with the children of Israel there as they were camped just before crossing the Jordan. No one is safe, no matter what our experience has been, no matter how high our station. We need to watch and pray continually. We must be daily controlled by the Spirit of God, or we are controlled by Satan. If Satan seeks to divert the mind to low and sensual things, bring it back again and place it on eternal things. And when the Lord sees, look at this, this is a personal, just constant thing between God and us. When the Lord sees the determined effort made to retain only pure thoughts, he will attract the mind like the magnet. Think of that. That's quick. Purify the thoughts and enable them to cleanse themselves from every sin, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, Paul says in 2 Corinthians. We may leave off many bad habits. For the time, we may part company with Satan, but without a vital connection with God, through the surrender of ourselves to him moment by moment. Remember, we spent that whole chapter on full surrender. If we do that, we shall be overcome. Without a personal acquaintance with Christ and a continual communion, we are at the mercy of the enemy and shall do his bidding at the end. We need that vital connection with God and that complete and thorough surrender constantly. There is not an impulse of our nature, not a faculty of the mind or an inclination of the heart, but needs to moment by moment, to be moment by moment under the control of the Spirit of God. Hosea says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And then why? Because they have rejected knowledge. Friends, I just want to, again, bring this to your attention. Are we preparing for the final events? When they hit, it's going to be fast. And we cannot get the oil of grace within us in a short period of time. That's what the foolish virgins thought could happen, and it didn't happen. I'm bringing these things to you. If we follow all of these things, we are preparing for the final events and for Jesus coming. We will have that close relationship with Jesus that nothing can shake. Please come back and look at session 5. It is a marvelous session that has to tell it all. When I'm through with that, you will know exactly what must be with your nature when we are finished with that session. Thank you for listening.